We all know how stupid BeamNG AI traffic can be, and today we explore these themes, breaking it down into 3 sections. Chapter below in case you want to skip anything in my first ever BeamNG video essay. However, before we start section 1, I would quickly like to clarify that this video is by no means aimed to hurt the devs in any way, as after all, BeamNG is an early access game, and this video is, at times, based on opinions from both me and my audience. The AI in BeamNG has some very janky, broken and weird behaviours. This section covers and showcases these behaviours, of which all have been noticed by me as well as you guys. The BeamNG AI has been known to infuriate many of us, such as myself. I know a lot of people love to drive realistically, of which requires traffic to be enabled. However, it is almost impossible to get immersed in the drive when AI starts cutting you off, not intentionally, just randomly decides to turn off.
I turn now! Good luck everybody else!
This is not just when you're driving realistically. You also see this if you're police roleplaying and have your lights and sirens turned on and are gunning it down the fast lane. In real life, you'd expect traffic to then safely merge into the next lane and continue driving. However, BeamNG AI aggressively turns itself into the next lane and slams on its brakes so it completely stops, which has resulted in many collisions from me. However, we will discuss this more in detail later. Another thing I have noticed is when driving as police on smaller roads, sometimes the AI can be rather intelligent. Let me explain. So BeamNG AI normally totally stops when you have sirens on. However, when you're on tighter roads and have no clear path around due to both sides of traffic blocking the road, I have seen the AI start to move again, just slowly, to create a small gap just big enough for your police car to fit through. Don't get me wrong, this doesn't always happen. However, when it does, it amazes me every single time. And I think it's these small features that start to redeem the AI at times. Another AI feature that results in non-stop collisions is when the AI just randomly stops. When I first noticed this, it happened to be in a car with a taxi livery, and I thought, okay, that somewhat makes sense. However, I then started to see it more often, and it was just random cars stopping in very random and dangerous places. And as much as I will make excuses for the AI in BeamNG, this is just crazy. Nothing in the way of these cars, and they just decide to stop. I personally have noticed it more on East Coast USA, however it does happen on other maps. This is similar to 9 out of 10 BeamNG drivers not knowing what an indicator is and never using it. Or sometimes, albeit rare, the AI will indicate one way and turn the opposite way. Or what happens more regularly is when the AI indicates one way and at the last second changes its mind and changes its direction, resulting in it swerving about the junction and confusing everyone. But not only does the AI become indecisive when at junctions, they clearly do not understand stop signs, as sometimes they completely blow through them with not a single care, and other times they will stop at these stop signs for way longer than required. I think someone maybe needs to teach the AI that these signs do not go green after 2 minutes. This is most noticeable when driving with quite a large line of traffic vehicles, especially in Belasco on the dreaded hill with stop signs at every single junction. And when trying to go up here, every individual AI car feels the need to stop at the sign for a way longer than is required. At least we can give the AI credit for being good at hill start, stopping and setting off so much. Also, giving the player some good practice. This one I don't notice as much. It's most common when spawning traffic, although it does happen randomly sometimes. This being the definition of confused AI, spawning into intersections and just driving in several circles until it figures its way out. I don't mean doing donuts, because that would be too cool. I mean just literally driving in circles over and over and over again. It seems to vary how long the AI will get stuck in these loops for. However, it is both funny and incredibly infuriating. Next, let's talk about how AI deals with collisions, whether it is a player colliding with the AI or the traffic crashing into itself, which happens way too much. The traffic just stops. I understand that you'd expect this after an accident, but even after the insurance information has been exchanged notification appears after a player collision, the AI does not always set off again. It just sits there, all confused. However, the second you try to overtake it, especially on a narrow and busy road, the AI will take off the second you're about to pull in front of it, most likely causing another accident. It's even worse when the AI collides with itself, especially if it's from both sides of a narrow road, as you never know when or if the cars will move again, and you have to either sit patiently to a symphony of honks or just crash out, literally. This ties us quite well into our next point, which is what AI does when it comes across an obstacle, whether it be a crash, a piece of debris, or even a traffic cone. They just stop. Regardless if it's a 3-lane motorway or a single-lane country road, the AI just stops and stares at whatever is blocking their path, making no effort to go around it, not even a bad one. It just stops and waits for the obstruction to clear, which, if the obstruction is you, the AI will just line up, getting longer and longer until no more cars spawn at the end of the line. Although funny that we can create such large traffic jams, it is annoying it can be caused by something so simple that in reality would take 1 second to avoid. For the final 2 issues we have noticed with BeamNG AI, we have its inability to follow the speed limit. What I mean by this is most of the time I'm stuck behind AI that is going so slowly. There is a lack of speed limit signs in BeamNG, as one commenter did point out. However, that does not excuse the AI going 40 on a massive open and empty motorway. However, I can see why it does this, as the second you want to have a police chase and tell the AI to flee, they have zero foresight. What I mean by this is the AI has no idea what's ahead of it and does not seem to think.
There is a barrier ahead and a really sharp corner just before it. What speed do I need? I think 100 miles per hour.
This really annoys me, as I love having police chases in BeamNG. However, my friends get very bored of them, but the second I place AI somewhere and give it a head start to flee, within 5 minutes it is wrapped around a pole, in a ditch, or has totaled itself. It's really annoying that I can't even do the speed limit on some roads, never mind having these high speed or even medium speed chases. Overall, the BeamNG AI has many issues, like many. However, we will discuss how likely I think it is to be fixed in section 3. But besides fixing these bugs, let's talk about features that people have requested for BeamNG's AI traffic. Just before we start section 2, I just wanted to say that since this style of video is destined to get lots of hate, if you could comment something nice, it would mean a lot, as I do still read and reply to every single comment, even the bad ones. Also, while you're down there, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, thank you. Anyways, let's move on to... This section will focus on a mix of features requested by both people in my Discord server and features I personally want. I'll do my best to find the credit, however it has been a while since I've last worked on this video, so I may misremember people. However, all credit will be top right as usual, and I'll do my best. First up is one that I actually covered in a recent video, wishing we had some random encounters. I know some people are against this, but personally, I would love it. I won't go into too much detail, as you can watch that video after this one if you want some more information, but it's basically random events on roadsides such as recovery, accidents, breakdowns, etc. Next up, this one was mentioned by way too many people to credit, so we'll just put it under the wider community. However, when I called out the BeamNG AI in this video, a lot of people said that it was realistic, as there are idiot drivers in real life, which, don't get me wrong, I know. I'm one of them. However, I don't think this level of stupidity is realistic. I think having idiots in moderation is a lot healthier and more enjoyable. For example, driving at the speed limit in traffic when someone tries to cut up but wrecks or just flies past. That's fine, that happens. But when every driver is practically cutting themselves off, that's what I say is too much stupidity. This next one I don't actually see as being too difficult to add, but I'm also not a developer. It's just simply random police chases like we see in GTA 5. In BeamNG, if you drive with police traffic as a police officer yourself, all the other nearby cars will join in with chasing a car if you get into a pursuit, using questionable methods at times. However, why can't these guys do their own police chases, just randomly start chasing AI cars as we do, and flip the roles, and give the player the decision if they want to join the chase? This next one, submitted by a Discord member, I feel is quite a tricky one. They wish they could filter traffic car spawns by era, and I do think it's a good idea, but as it stands, BeamNG does does not have that large of a vehicle variety, meaning you can get about one car if you choose a specific era. However, as the game expands, I 100% think this would become more possible as there'll be enough cars. This next one I feel will do quite a lot for immersion. I'm not sure if BeamNG already does this, or if I've just finally lost the plot, or both. However, I'll mention it regardless. That is different traffic densities based on the time of day. For example, if you're driving on the roads at 5 PM, it's crazy busy as everyone rushes home after work. However, compare this to the roads at 2 AM, and at least most of the time, there is no cars on the road. This footage was taken in the city centre after 12 AM where I live. You can see there are almost no cars, buses, or anything, which is especially crazy on the busiest street in the city. This actually ties us perfectly onto the next point, which I pray for BeamNG to add this. It being a more reasonable traffic density based on road size. What I mean by this is you would not expect to be stuck in a traffic jam on a tiny mountain road with the absolute maximum amount of BeamNG cars spawning. I would expect less on those mountain roads and then considerably more on the likes of highways, which are usually busier. Most of the time it isn't too bad, especially if you don't get stuck in traffic on these mountain roads, but the second there's like a one car collision, it just lines up with all of these cars, which realistically there would not be that many cars on a road like that. Anyways, these next two I'll merge into one, as they are fixes to issues detailed in section 1. The first one is wishing BeamNG traffic could have more variety in speed, following the speed limit mainly, but as I also touched on, some drivers should be crawling along at 20 miles an hour and others should speed past, or get chased by police. And the next point is, when these both equally dangerous drivers get into inevitable collisions, they should pull off to the side of the road, not just randomly stop, never to move again, or attempt to drive away after being absolutely totaled. Plus, as the police are on their way, by police I mean the player in a police car, I wish the AI would actually know how to avoid them, causing further accidents. However, I did discuss these earlier, but it was worth adding in here. Another one suggested by a few people is that they wish BeamNG had random events, such as random street races, taking place on the streets of Belasco at 2 AM. I suppose this does also come under random events, however I think due to its dynamic nature requiring moving cars, not just stationary ones, it's worth giving its own section. And finally, a feature I do agree with, also submitted in my Discord, is giving AI the ability to park. Easier said than done, I know, however it is quite cool seeing parked cars. However, imagine seeing a car pull up and park into a space, or also cool, imagine seeing a car pull out of a parking space legally and then drive away normally. But now let's discuss if I actually think these features will ever be added to BeamNG and when I think they would do it. However, let's take a step back and think if BeamNG will realistically see any of these changes. In my not so professional opinion, I don't think BeamNG will see these features or changes, or at the very least, no time soon. As I have tried to make very clear, this video was just highlighting issues with the AI and discussing the features you wanted to see added. After all, BeamNG is an early access game and we cannot expect the devs to work on these rather small details whilst also trying to build and scale a game, releasing some massive features like the rally mode or career mode. I think BeamNG will improve the AI gradually over the coming years. However, I also think that a lot of features discussed won't be added at all. The AI will just be brought to a slightly smarter and more tolerable standard. However, at the end of the day, I personally love BeamNG, and everyone has their own opinion, but personally, I believe BeamNG is one of the best simulation games out there, and I will love it regardless. Also, YouTube thinks you'll like the video now on screen. See ya!